In the wake of the historic unrest across Iran, which started from the last week of December from the Bazaar strikes, it continued till the second week of January with the local populace joining in. Iran has seen unprecedented violence with around 6,000 people dead, which is as per official figures. The economy is in a free fall, the people are restive, and President Donald Trump, who seemed to have backed off from invading Iran when he was locked and loaded, in his own words, now has come back with the US naval armada. The US defense strategy released recently makes special mention of Iran, which seems to be in the crossfire of Washington. To discuss this, we have with us Ambassador Vivek Katju, who was the former ambassador of India to Afghanistan and Myanmar, and he headed the Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan desk in the Ministry of External Affairs, which makes him, he has a special eye on the region. Welcome to Samvad, sir.
Thank you very much, Mayank.
Sir, we'll start off with the US military preparing for the possible Iran strikes. Now, the armada assembled around Iran right now is greater than the armada which was surrounding Venezuela just a few weeks ago. In June, President Trump he said on Sunday, we obliterated Iran's nuclear capacity in Operation Midnight Hammer. Then he goes on to add, just a couple of days ago, that there is another beautiful armada floating beautifully towards Iran right now. Israel obviously is apparently ready to and raring to attack Iran. Khamenei on his part has called Trump a criminal. So my question is military conflict inevitable in the region? Is the 47 years old American project of regime change nearing culmination?
The American project, Mayank, of regime change in Afghanistan continues, and I have no doubt that it will continue. However, as of now, I am not persuaded that Trump is going to indulge in any serious military action which will involve putting boots on the ground. I am also not persuaded that Trump can have one more Caracas. He cannot extricate the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, the way he extricated President Maduro. Given this, it seems likely that Trump is doing what I call his chest-thumping guerrilla act. However, with Trump being very mercurial, it is difficult to say whether he will launch, say, a series of concerted aerial attacks on Iran with the intention that the Iranian population will rise against the regime. The problem with that scenario is that the regime's roots are fairly strong, even if there is restlessness in Iran because of economic conditions. And you are right, the Bazaris got up, and that was the beginning of this round of difficulties for the Iranian system. And it was significant because the Bazaris are a very significant and potent political force in Iran. Yet, the Iranian system has shown conclusively that they have no difficulties in killing large numbers of their people. So I'll conclude by saying that if there has to be regime change, then it will only be through the Iranian people wading through a vast and deep river of blood. I don't see any other way for regime change in Iran.
Sir, in case he goes beyond his guerrilla chest-thumping act, as you called it, sir, in case he does it, sir, because he's mercurial, because he's now known to be doing things which nobody expects him to do. How will the region respond? Because the Saudis have already refused air permission. The UAE, the Emiratis have already joined in saying that they will not allow US forces to overfly their airspace. So how is the region expected to respond in a situation like that?
The region doesn't want Trump to undertake any attacks with the objective of regime change. You see, it's one thing for the region and for the rest of the world, if I may say that, not wanting the Iranians to have any capacity or potential to develop nuclear weapons.
Hmm.
Everyone is very wary of Iran in that respect.
Hmm.
And therefore, there wasn't much reaction when the Israelis had a go at Iran last year, and with Trump joining in and then bombing the Iranian nuclear sites very effectively.
Hmm.
I think the pictures show that. Uh, However, Trump is also aware, as is Israel, that at the end of the day, Iran has vast intellectual prowess. Even though the Iranians have killed and periodically do kill Iranian nuclear scientists, yet the pool of skilled manpower and
Hmm.
professional manpower, technological manpower to have a nuclear program
Hmm.
in Iran is substantial. And at the end of the day, uh, it is what is here
Hmm.
that matters more
True.
than anything else. We know that. Uh, so I'm distinguishing between the region permitting regime change because the region is very wary.
Hmm.
It doesn't want the Iranians to close the Straits of Hormuz. It
Hmm.
doesn't want the Iranians to invoke the passions on a sectarian basis in the region
Hmm. Hmm.
or specifically across the Gulf. Uh, and therefore, what they overlooked last year when Israel and Trump went for the Iranian nuclear assets, even though the Iranians claimed they were entirely civilian. Uh, and now is a different situation.
And maybe also, sir, because they don't want a very strong Israel surviving the region. Because if Iran goes down, Israel becomes very strong, then that is a problem for the region also, isn't that?
Uh, to an extent, they want the Israelis to be kept in check to some extent. But
Hmm.
I think the region is quite aware that a denuded Iran
Hmm.
cannot control the Israelis.
Hmm.
Also, we know that Israeli proxies, the Hezbollah, the Hamas, uh, the Bashar Assad's al-Assad Syrian regime, it's all over.
Hmm.
So I think the Iranian potential to contain Israel is also curtailed, and the region is aware of this.
So I'll shift to diplomacy because while sharing this information about sending his armada to the region, the Persian Gulf region, Trump added that he hopes that this time around Iran will make a deal, his words. And they should have made a deal in the first instance, he also goes on to add. Now, I was reading this statement by the foreign minister of Iran, Abbas Aragachi, who said that I have not had any contact with Mr. Steve Witkoff in recent days, and we have not requested for negotiations. He added that although the intermediaries remain active and that Iran is in contact with mediating countries, holding consultations, he says that we are not exactly looking out for talks with US as of now. So does diplomacy have any possibility under these circumstances?
Diplomacy always has possibilities. We can't rule that out. I mean, that's a given. That's the
Hmm.
entire purpose of engagement, of talks, to find ways out, to navigate through situations, preventing conflict. But in this case, there are a couple of things that we've got to bear in mind. First of all, there was a deal between the Americans and the other uh, European countries. Of course, there's now a different scenario altogether,
Hmm.
which was struck, uh, I think, in 2016.
Hmm.
And Trump walked away from that deal, the
Hmm.
Iranian nuclear deal. Trump walked away from it. It's a
Hmm.
different matter that Biden couldn't sew it up together.
Hmm.
Again, now, I think what Trump is really wanting is that Iran should, uh, for all times, give up the idea of enriching uranium beyond a certain level. He was very critical of Obama's deal because in Obama's deal, there was a certain period, the deal was for a certain period and it would be reviewed thereafter. The second thing that Trump wants is that Iranian ballistic missile capacity be completely done away with.
Hmm.
Now, uh, it's difficult to see Iran, whether under the present regime or under any regime,
Hmm.
giving up these options.
Hmm.
We've got to keep in mind Iranian national pride and Iranian psyche. Iran is an old civilization. It is conscious that in history it has seen all kinds of ups and downs. It is also, the people are also very subtle. And their diplomacy, I personally find it very difficult to deal with them. I found it very difficult to deal with them because there isn't a straightforwardness in their diplomacy, let me put it like this.
Okay.
Yet, they have old traditions of diplomacy. Uh, so, given all that, Mayank, I think an engagement between the Americans and the Iranians would be useful. And I'm, as Aragachi himself has said, if there are intermediaries who are active, let's hope that the principles will also come into play. Uh, but when that will happen, one doesn't know. Now, as far as the Armada is concerned, one word. I
Hmm.
think the Armada is for coercion,
Hmm.
and it's really to strangle the Iranian economy further. I mean, the logic of it is clear that you strangle them so much that the people of Iran rise up against the regime.
Hmm.
I think that has been part of the American playbook right for a
Hmm.
very long time, till Obama realized that these are people who are not easily amenable to regime change, and the Vilayat Faqih system is not something that can be just sort of thwarted, or with a hand you just clear it off the table. It's not as easy as that, and that is why the deal. So if Trump and his people think that they can do away with the system, uh, I think it won't be so easy. Yes, it's different. They can do a unilateral action
Hmm.
like they did killing Soleimani.
Hmm. Hmm.
They can again do a unilateral action because they have overwhelming force and bomb various sites.
Hmm.
The Israelis can engineer assassinations.
Hmm.
After all, if I recollect correctly, they assassinated the Hamas political leader during the swearing in ceremony
Hmm.
of the Iranian president.
Hmm.
This was what, a year and a half ago?
Yes, sir.
And that enraged everyone because
Hmm.
this kind of a thing is not done. And it's ironic that they were negotiating with him.
Hmm.
But but all kinds of things take place. This was one of
Sir, Armada is not the only source of coercion. This statement from US Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent. He claims that US used economic warfare to create chaos in Iran. He claims that. Sanctions now, the sanctions in Iran have led to collapse of banks and currency. They've caused massive inflation, fueled resentment among the people. So, if the stated goal of economic warfare is to incite internal chaos and civilian resentment to force a regime change, at what point, sir, does a global financial superpower cross the line from strategic diplomacy to state sponsored collective punishment?
I say with Trump, uh, there's no theory involved. He wants regime change. He wants to use all the instruments that the Americans have to regime change. And as I mentioned, I myself mentioned to you, his idea is that the people rise up. They're so fed up of the economic conditions that they rise up. And the Armada is part of that process because then you choke Iran. You don't let their oil go through, even the smuggled oil go through. Now, the region is a little restless at this and little worried because it's not as if the Iranians don't have any instruments. It won't take very, very much, or let me put it won't be impossible for them to choke the Straits of Hormuz even for a short period. And that, in the present economic climate in the world, can make things extremely tight. You are seeing what is happening. It is bewildering. The weakening of the dollar, the weakening of other currencies, some other currencies, the phenomenal rise of metal, precious metals especially. So that shows an abnormal international economic situation. And on top of all this, if you have a choking of oil, and remember, and let's not forget which are the direction. What is the direction in which oil from the Gulf flows? It doesn't go to the Americans. It comes to us. It goes to the Chinese. It goes to the South Koreans, and I think to the Japanese. So we won't like the Straits of Hormuz to be closed, and it is in this context that it was very interesting and a clear signal from India when in the Human Rights Council we voted against recently. I think last week.
Last week only.
We voted against a resolution condemning Iran for its killing of its own people during these recent protests and demonstrations. And there were just 7 countries and we were one of them. What does that show? It shows we don't want regime change. We are worried. I mean, apart from the signal to the Americans, it also was a signal to the region, to Iran in the region that we don't want all this. Now, that doesn't mean that we approve of Iranian methods. The signal from us was clear, and I think the Americans would have picked it up completely.
Yes, sir. So this time around, I mean, these protests, they have been very sustained. I mean, it went on for a very long time. The violence from both sides, because number of hundreds of security personnel also were killed. So obviously the violence was, I mean, tremendous on both sides. And it's not been episodic because the last time around, even last 3-4 protests, they've been episodic. So this was very regular, very continuous. And there is a very interesting thing, article which has come out in the Atlantic. And I'm taking out the thing which appealed to me the most, sir. They say that the Islamic Republic's relationship with Iranians is not a social contract, but a predatory lease signed in 1979 that has long since expired. Iranians don't seek to renegotiate the contract but to evict the landlord. So obviously it's targeting the clergy leadership. So do you see, sir, Iran heading towards another 1979? Are we looking at a counter revolution from the citizens' perspective, or it's more of a hearsay sort of a thing somewhere?
If you permit, I'll give you a little background to this, as I
Sure,
understand.
sure.
These are fancy words, social contract, etc. I am no scholar, so I don't follow much of this. But what I do understand is this, that traditional Shiite scholarship and theological approaches, which are very structured,
Hmm,
as you know, in Iran, uh, did not believe in uh, clerical involvement in governance and politics. They felt that the clergy's role should be to provide spiritual guidance to the people, if needed, spiritual guidance uh, to the rulers,
hmm,
but not rule directly.
hmm,
Ayatollah Khomeini broke this strict tradition, and uh, there were many ayatollahs who opposed him, and I dare say within Qom, there is still a very strong school of thought which rejects this,
hmm,
which wants to go back to the old system. Now, what was the Ayatollah's, Khomeini's system? He called it, and the Iranians call it now, the Vilayat-e-Faqih, the rule of the jurisprudent.
okay.
In this system, it is that there will be a supreme leader who will be an Ayatollah, Marja, in fact, someone worthy. The highest, he's achieved the highest level of theological, scholarly attainment, and
Hmm,
he's worthy of emulation. That's what a Marja means. And that he will be the supreme leader in charge of both temporal and spiritual affairs.
hmm,
And there have been just two. There was Khomeini, and in 1989 came Khamenei. His selection, or quote unquote election, but selection actually, was surprising because he didn't have certainly the stature of Ayatollah Khomeini. He hadn't even attained that position in terms of theological scholarship. But in time he did, and it's been what, 36 years now that he's been in power. But he is the apex of an entire system.
hmm,
And this is a system which is sustained through a coercive apparatus, and I will call them, the world calls them the Revolutionary Guards.
hmm,
And the Revolutionary Guards have enormous vested interests in the Iranian system. So at one side, there is this system which is there. On the other side, the Iranian people have a certain old cultural tradition. एक मुझे हमारे इरानियन स्कॉलर हैं, हिंदुस्तानी थे, उन्होंने मुझे बहुत सालों पहले, अरसा पहले, एक शब्द का प्रयोग किया था। मैं उनसे बात करता था, मैं क्या है ये इरानियन कैसे हैं, तो उन्होंने मुझसे कहा कि साहब ये बड़े रसिक लोग,
okay.
हम और आप तो ईस्टर्न यूपी के हैं, तो हम समझ सकते हैं कि रसिक कौन होता है।
Hmm,
हाँ, इट इज नॉट, इट्स अ कल्चरल थिंग। हाँ, कि भाई उसमें उसको अंग्रेजी में उसका तर्जुमा करना बड़ा मुश्किल है।
मुश्किल है।
हाँ, बट इट
जी,
इज, एंड इट इज नॉट अ रोमांटिक थिंग, इट इज कि भाई वो, इट डज नॉट इवन हैव एनी इरोटिक कॉनोटेशंस, टू परमिट मी टू से, बट इट इज कि भाई कल्चर है, उसमें शौक है उसको म्यूजिक का, पोइट्री का।
हम्म,
यू नो व्हाट आई मीन, वो एक उसका कास्ट ऑफ माइंड है, इट्स
जो
अ
नवाब
कल्चरल थिंग।
जो नवाब से यहाँ हुआ करते थे सर, उस तरह से
भाई
कुछ।
उनको एक शौक है,
हाँ,
गवर्नेंस तो करते हैं, लेकिन एक शौक है कि भाई इन चीजों का एक सिविलाइजेशनल चीज है। नाउ दिस, ये जो स्कॉलर थे हमारे, उन्होंने मुझसे कहा कि साहब ये जो सिस्टम है विलायत फकी, ये रसिक सिविलाइजेशन जो है इनकी,
हम्म,
इससे बिल्कुल विपरीत।
जी,
तो ये टेंशन हमेशा से बना रहेगा।
जी,
अब उन वो शौकीन लोग हैं, यू नो व्हाट आई मीन, शौक, खाने
हम्म,
पीने का शौक है। हाँ,
हम्म,
रहन सहन का शौक है, नॉर्दर्न
हम्म।
तेहरान जाइए
सर,
तो
फॉर द गुड थिंग्स इन लाइफ जिसको कहा जाए सर,
गुड
एंजॉयिंग द
थिंग्स
गुड
इन
थिंग्स।
लाइफ, हाँ, खाने पीने का
जी,
शौक, म्यूजिक का शौक,
जी।
पोइट्री का शौक, वो एक 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 कल्चर जो होता है नॉर्दर्न तेहरान में अभी भी, स्ट्रीम्स के बगल में छोटे छोटे रेस्टोरेंट्स होते हैं या कबाब। शबे जुमा यानी थर्सडे, जुमा उनका एक वीकेंड है, तो शबे जुमा मीन्स द प्रीवियस इवनिंग। उस दिन वहां शाम को भीड़ लगी रहती है, लोग कबाब खाना, नो अल्कोहल, कबाब खाना, बातचीत, कॉन्वर्सेशन इज ऑल्सो, रसिक लोगों में कॉन्वर्सेशन इज ऑल्सो एन आर्ट फॉर्म।
यस सर।
कि बातचीत हो रही है, शाम को महफिल जमी है, बात हो रही है। महफिल मीन डजंट मीन ड्रिंकिंग अल्कोहल, बट महफिल है भाई, बातचीत हो रही है, इधर उधर की बात, उसमें सब हम लोग समझ सकते हैं, तुम और मैं समझ सकते हैं, क्योंकि कुछ ये माहौल हम लोग के वहां भी था।
जी, जी।
हाँ, तो ये टेंशन तो उनमें है, लेकिन यही मैं अभी मुझे नहीं लग रहा है कि ये लोग जो हैं ये भड़क सकते हैं, क्योंकि खुमैनी शाह जब हटाए गए थे तो खुमैनी था एक ऑप्शन। अभी ऑप्शन कौन है? वो
हम्म,
रजा शाह के लड़के बहुत उछल कूद करी, वो अमेरिका में बैठे हैं। जब
हम्म।
से रजा शाह गए, कितने 46 साल हो गए।
हाँ सर।
79 में गए थे
46
तो
ईयर्स, हाँ।
79, 21, 47, अब 47 साल हो गए
47,
इस
70
साल।
जी।
47 ईयर्स हो गए, तो 47 ईयर्स के बाद क्या वो आ जाएंगे?
हम्म,
तो इसलिए ऑपोजिशन भी तो नहीं है।
हम्म,
तो ये जो कह रहे हैं ट्रम्प साहब ने, ट्रम्प इज सेइंग दैट यू कीप फाइटिंग, वी आर कमिंग, वी आर कमिंग, तो आर्माडा लेके पहुंच गए।
हम्म।
लेकिन देखिए, अनलेस यू आर विलिंग टू पुट ग्राउंड ट्रूप्स ऑन, बूट्स ऑन द ग्राउंड, ग्राउंड ट्रूप्स इन ऑपरेशन, और वो ट्रम्प क्या करेंगे?
हाईली अनलाइकली सर।
पाकिस्तानियों को धमकी दी थी तालिबान के बारे में, आपको याद होगा, 2017 में, 2018 में क्या क्या नहीं बोले थे इन हिज ट्वीट।
हम्म। हाँ,
फिर उसके बाद कुछ हुआ?
हम्म,
So that is why I am not persuaded at the moment, which doesn't mean it need not happen, but I'm personally not persuaded. But
हम्म,
with Trump, there's always this caveat कि भाई मालूम नहीं क्या करते।
हम्म। But the clergy, sir, they are also in a problem. If they open up, if they open up the economy, sir, they want the economy to flourish. They have to do some sort of a deal with Trump. And the moment they do a deal, they open up the economy, then the opening up of economy has its own consequences, sir. वो अपने एक free fall में चला जाता है दूसरे. So catch 22 तो उनके लिए भी है, sir. It's not easy for them
ये तुम,
also.
no, I think what you are saying is right. We, after all, we saw in the Soviet system,
Hmm.
once Gorbachev started with glasnost and perestroika,
Hmm.
he thought he'll be able to control the opening. I mean, if I may put it, that in a repressive system, in a closed system,
Hmm.
the ruler always thinks that I can control the opening of the door.
Hmm.
But you are very wise, Mayank, when you say that it can't be controlled. It simply can't be controlled
Hmm.
because you have unknown forces which come up in operation.
Hmm.
I'm making a generalized statement, but I think history bears this out.
True. So all we can
So
say
you're
right
right.
now.
They're also in difficulty. But as of now, I'm not persuaded that uh, they are in a position that the Shah was after the autumn of 1978.
But
Because the
do you see
Revolutionary
them
Guards,
using more force, sir? Using more force
but
to control, suppress the people, the
I
Khomeinis
think
as well.
I would think that that is quite likely. I mean, there may be more fierce protests, especially if the people start feeling
Hmm.
that Trump is going to come, because the Americans loom large in the Iranian mind. They always have since 1951, after to Mossadegh, or 52.
Hmm.
Uh, but uh, as of today, I don't see the regime tottering, because there's one other aspect to it. You see, you have situations where a regime splinters from within.
Hmm.
That is no evidence that that is happening.
Hmm.
Two, when a regime starts uh, being very uneasy with the use of violence against its own people,
Hmm.
these people are not inhibited by that. Why? Because they say that these people who are opposing us, the Iranians, are not only enemies of the state, but they're enemies of God.
Hmm.
Now, if you become an enemy of God, तब तो आपको यानी जो बसीजी है या जो रेवोल्यूशनरी गार्ड है उसको मारने में कोई हिचक नहीं।
Hmm.
तो ये सोचना ट्रम्प का कि वो मडूरो जैसा कर सकता है ये तो बिल्कुल पॉसिबल है ही नहीं, मेरा ये मानना है।
Yes, sir.
और दूसरा ये कि वो इंसाइट करके क्या इंसाइट करके फिर वो डेमोन्स्ट्रेशंस करवा देगा।
Hmm.
मे बी द इजरायलीज हैव आल्सो पेनिट्रेटेड सेक्शंस ऑफ इरानियन सोसाइटी और वो भी कर देंगे, लेकिन उसका कल्मिनेशन क्या होगा?
Yes, sir. End game clear नहीं है. It's not clear कि
तो
end
एंड
what is
गेम
the
तो
end
भाई
game.
इट्स हाईली इररिस्पॉन्सिबल
Hmm.
टू इंटरवीन इन अ सिचुएशन लाइक दिस, even if there's the world's most powerful country,
Hmm.
without reaching the end game, because what happens is that it leads to the death
True.
of thousands of people,
Yes, sir.
और जाने जाया जाती हैं,
Hmm.
जाने गई तो जाया हुई वो,
जी.
कल्मिनेशन तो उनका कुछ हुआ नहीं। भाई these things ultimately have to be spontaneous from within.
Hmm.
They can't be they can be assisted from outside,
Hmm.
पर इस वक्त तो कोई इंटरनल लीडर नहीं है उनका।
Hmm.
खोमेनी तो इंटरनल था, वो नजफ में रहा, वो फ्रांस में रहा, लेकिन वो था, उसकी यहाँ सपोर्ट था, थियोलॉजिकल सपोर्ट था, और वो शाह से बिल्कुल उस वक्त इन 78 वो खत्म जिच आ गए थे, तो उसके बाद वट एवर हैपेंड हैपेंड।
Hmm.
हियर आई एम नॉट सीइंग दैट, एंड आई सस्पेक्ट दैट दिल्ली too has reached that. Otherwise, I don't see, I won't have believed that Delhi would have been only among 7 countries which opposed that UNHRC resolution, especially at this time. And what the other countries were, what I think, Cuba,
Hmm.
Pakistan.
Hmm.
So it's ironic that we were on this, we and the Pakistanis were both supporting,
Hmm.
rejecting that resolution. But such are the strange twists of international
Yes.
diplomacy.
True, sir. Sir, all we can say that the country is in a flux, and we have to wait and watch and not jump to conclusions with or without the Armada. And we can only
Ah,
hope the
that's
best.
right. That's
We can
right. The
only hope the
Armada
best
will
for the people of
hopefully.
Iran.
That's right. Ultimately, bhai, it has the people who have to decide. Yeah, बट वो तो अब ट्रम्प
Yes, sir.
साहब तो रोज सुबह उठ के कुछ ना कुछ कह देते हैं, बताइए उसमें अब क्या करा जाए।
Yes, sir. We need to subscribe to Truth Social so कि सुबह सुबह क्या हुआ पता चल जाए. Otherwise, it becomes very
क्या
difficult.
क्या हुआ? वो
Because
अब चलिए गनीमत है 3 बजे उठ के नहीं वो कर
हाँ
देते।
सर वो क्योंकि there are number of false memes floating around, sir. कई बार you can fall
हाँ,
for
दैट्स राइट।
that topic that he said something because he says something which is quite absurd at times. So
नहीं
we have to be very careful.
नहीं, आज लास्ट थिंग लेट मी से इज मयंक, दैट इन द एज ऑफ एआई, पहले भी एआई
Yes, sir.
इतना नहीं था, फर्स्ट ट्रम्प
Sir.
की फर्स्ट, अब एआई के मैं देखता हूँ ऑल काइंड्स ऑफ थिंग्स कम ऑन द सोशल मीडिया।
Yes, sir. So
Or
very
at least for an old person like me, it is very difficult to distinguish कि यार ये सही है या नहीं है।
नहीं सभी
And
के लिए
what I
सर.
try to do is
Yes,
to go to the mainstream Indian national media and international media
yes, sir.
to corroborate कि भाई ये हुआ है नहीं हुआ।
Yes, sir.
I don't
Sir,
know what you do, but मुझे
sir,
तो यही करना
the
पड़ता
same thing, sir. I go to the original Twitter and find out whether he's tweeted it or not. There are a
है।
number of
That's
memes
right.
floating around. That you have
बिल्कुल
to take
बिल्कुल।
certain safeguards.
Yeah.
But we are completely short of time, sir. Run out of
No,
time, sir.
thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much, sir. Thank you so much for
Thank
sparing
you.
time for us, sir. Thank you.
No, it's lovely. Always wonderful being with you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
sir.
man.
Thank you.